What a time to be alive, the age of information. So many people questioning creation. Come, take a seat or step outside to have a conversation. Let's listen, observe, and respond with compassion and truth. Welcome to another episode of the Fearless Shepherds podcast. My name is Kyle Cassidy, and I'm joined here with one of the founding fathers, Chaz Byrd. Chaz, how are you, brother?
So good. It's an honor to be here. Stepping into something new with you, man, with community, watching it come into fruition.
I know we've been talking about this podcast and talking about a lot of different things since I met you about 9 months ago now at a music festival of all things. And I remember looking around on the dance floor and seeing a beam of light. I said, I got to go talk to that. And you had a jellyfish hovering above your head. You were with our good friend Josh. I remember we had a conversation pretty quickly, and I just knew, I found a brother. And I think it's really something that's amazing. This podcast is the Fearless Shepherds. We talk a lot about faith and spirituality, and I had been praying for brothers, and God has been bringing so many brothers into my life. And then not only has God been bringing brothers into my life, but God has been pushing me to be a better brother for my brothers, And you and I's relationship has been amazing to see how much we show up for one another, not only to have a good time and live life to the fullest, but also to help each other through emotional struggles or confusion or sadness or all the stuff that I think a lot of friendship can lack. So yeah, man, I just wanted to thank you for the brotherhood that you have provided with me and the lifetime of greatness that awaits us. But I wanted to talk a little bit about that festival that we met at. Same but different. September. There's going to be another one coming up this year. I definitely look forward to having our community and meeting more community members there. But what was that experience like for you? Same but different.
Yeah. First of all, it's an honor and a privilege to have made your acquaintance and blossom into this friendship that we do have. And I want to thank you also for coming into my life the way that you have. That's such a positive impact. Like you said, it's something that I think a lot of relationships these days lack, is really rooted positive impact, no matter how that may be. Same for me, though, was an eye-opening experience being somebody that just loves music. I love to dance. But this was an opportunity for me to really just release from my surroundings. And it was my first music festival staying overnight that I feel like I was just old enough to be able to handle with a level of professionalism, at this dance music festival that I felt like every adult, every child there carried. And I went with a group of my friends that I consider family, and it was the first time that I had, hung out with them in that experience as well. So really, it was an opportunity to step outside of myself, but also get to know some other people on a closer level. I mean, we're sharing space with them for a weekend, and you have to make sure everybody's staying hydrated, everybody's staying fed, everybody's applying sunscreen, and everybody's definitely getting some sleep because those things can be easily overlooked. So it's a different kind of mindset when you go into these places, whether you're solo or in a community, because you're in a vulnerable place of being able to express yourself without being judged. So I've been going through just this endeavor for the past 2-3 years of finding my level of expressionism that either I am 100% comfortable with expressing, or I'm just not being judged for in a manner that's belittling to my character. So it was great being able to dance like nobody's watching, and it was awesome being able to scream and holler to the heaven, how great of a time it is to be alive.
Oh,
And I will never forget crossing paths with you. And upon introduction, you said you introduced yourself, your first last name, Kyle Cassidy, with just the most stout, bass, just prideful tone in your voice, man. And it was an automatic character attraction.
Yeah.
Where I was like, whatever kind of expressionism you feel compelled to share, I needed a piece of it. I needed to know where it came from. And ever since crossing your paths with you that day, I think we just had a small interaction that night. Then the next day, we locked eyes. We danced for about 6 hours in the blistering heat. Man, and then it was the last day of Same, Same, But Different, where our paths crossed again right after LS Dream, where we were on the dance floor going crazy.
Shout out LS Dream. That was such an epic show.
And then we headed to their Same, Same's, But Different butt stage in the butt jungle, where for the last time at the festival, we locked eyes but didn't separate. We actually spent the next 8 hours until sunrise walking around the camp festival, found a secret stage. We walked to my campsite. We walked to your campsite.
Just amazing.
We played on a seesaw. It was just big enough for both of us.
It was like we were little kids adventuring with no expectation, with no sense of time.
Yeah.
Talking about grown-up conversation.
And that's what I was getting to, man. You shared something with me during Same at that last night, man, where you're doing it right now. Everything that you manifested that night was a path of communion and growth between individuals who are willing to share their teachings, their knowledge, their vulnerabilities, man. You opened up to me that night and nobody asked you to. And I'm sure, we just felt really compelled it was divine.
Truly divine.
And so since meeting you, man, something I've carried with myself ever since we got back, we learned that we live a mile away from each other and we've been boys ever since. I learned a lot of things from you. And one of the biggest terms, verbiages, kind of mantras that I've learned is that nothing happens by accident. And I translate that into something learned with you called divine intervention, man. And I think that is where you impact me more than anything I've ever been impacted ever. You're an MVP in my life, dog, because meeting you has been a divine intersection in my life where there is no right or wrong on the path that I have to take when I have the homeboy who's looking out for me and is willing to hear my shortcomings, willing to just listen and let me vent, but also give me constructive criticism and find ways to push me in areas that I need or can't necessarily see. And I lean on you heavy, dog. And
vice versa, dude.
Appreciate you. And something that we push each other to do is teach people to teach people. So I take your energy, man, and I share it with everybody. I let them know that they are also here to lean on me, and I'm here to share my vulnerabilities, so that we can all take these steps together towards that brighter outcome, man. And
symbiotic relationships, bro. Yeah. How can I help you? And then also, it's not selfish to need help from another. And I think our society has made it like you should feel wrong for wanting help or asking for help. That is friendship. So it's been cool to see, and I appreciate everything that you just said, because it's not me doing that. That is God speaking through me. And that's what I've been praying for big time, is a way to lead my life so that I can practice what I preach. Cutting off distractions, cutting off mind-altering substances. Stop looking at women in a way that is destructive to the sacredness of a man and a woman, and finding Clarissa has been a huge help in that. But having brothers that you can hold yourself accountable and then feel compelled to hold them accountable, because that only furthers your yearning for being a better man. Because like you said, you're leaning on me. You can't lean on me if I'm weak, whether it's physically, which we'll get into our journey together in the gym, but you are a huge inspiration in that regard. But spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and I think the hardest part for men is emotionally. I think our society, since I was young, has looked at any form of emotion from a man as a weakness. And I think that is something I feel very called to doing, is holding space for the safety of, we are men, and we should be able to not dwell in a space of emotion, but it is so important that we are able to release rather than hold on to. My father was a volcano when I was young, and there came a point when he blew so gnarly that my mom was like, yo, you need to work on yourself, because this is an unhealthy way of dealing with your emotions. They're still together to this day because my father took it upon himself to work on himself. And so why wait until we're 40 with kids to erupt? Why not do the work now?
Yeah, something I also lean real heavy on is the theory of relativity, man. Everything has already happened, that has happened. And I personally am going through a very similar situation to what your parents have gone through. In fact, but perspective is everything, right? So I'm actually divorced with a child of my own, and it was the same thing. I knew I had these feelings that I wasn't able to communicate, and B, understand, and it was driving me into a really dark hole of guilt and shame. And I think the biggest reason was because not being able to communicate that feeling to somebody that you would expect to understand can really play a heavy toll on you. And expectations is another, you know, road in the theory of relativity. But if you're holding communion and you're holding, uh, whether it be a monogamous relationship or even an asexual relationship, the goal is to be able to communicate your feelings and have that objective in mind that is affecting whatever is changing your feelings, right? So for me personally, what drove me to meeting you, what drove me to being in LA currently, what drove me to going to the school that I'm going to, and living the life of just emotional freedom is realizing that there is no time like the present, and you have to take charge of your happiness no matter the circumstances. And something I've learned is that happiness is through problem solving. If you're willing to problem solve and figure it out, do it without without holding anything accountable to that. Take charge of your life, of your happiness. If somebody's not willing to understand where you're coming from in terms of your happiness, that is a huge sign that you have to sit with yourself and understand how to appreciate and accept and use that as your time of separation, of healing, of grieving, and then, of course, accepting, right, through all that reflection.
And the power of prayer. I think for me, knowing that people ask me, hey man, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm blessed. They're like, man, you're always blessed. You're always so upbeat. Like, where does that come from? Doesn't come from me. Internally, I'm broken. I'm confused. I'm scared. Through God, I am alive. I am abundant. I am blessed. So it's amazing how life is going to consistently give you speed bumps and give you hurdles and give you roads to choose. And it's this overcomplication that I think society, the world, and ourselves put onto our shoulders, which is pressure. And that pressure makes us make split decisions that if we were to just take a step back, pray, or meditate, whatever suits your practice. It allows you to see your life from a third eye perspective or from your higher self. And you're able to make a decision from not an emotional, not a physical, but from a spiritual perspective. And I think that is where the divine intervention comes in. And why these music festivals are so cool is because you are in a space, like you said, where there are people there that really just want to be present. They work a job maybe that they don't love. They're in a relationship that they can't voice these things with. So they're going to a place where they can be free, they can feel community, feel connection. And then even deeper for me, someone who practices faith, like I've been praying a lot. I went to Coachella and I'm going to do a whole episode on that experience. But there was a moment where I stepped away from the noise because it's a lot. Festivals are a lot and there's some debauchery going on in these festivals. So I was praying. I was just like, God, why am I here? What do you want me to do here? I know that I'm here for a reason. And he just told me to shine. Like Jesus told his disciples, love God and love each other. And so to be able to step into these places where people that are there sometimes are there and they're lonely or they're lost or they're looking for some form of light or connection or inspiration, to be that for somebody and to not go into it with this expectation of saving people, but to go into it with the expectation of shining God's light through my vessel and maybe planting a seed where they come up to me and they're, man, yo, you have this energy, this light. Where does it come from? Oh man, I'm high right now on the Holy Spirit. People are like, you're not on anything? And that's a really cool feeling. But I think that's kind of leading into my next topic of for me personally, I spoke with you about this earlier of cutting out substances that I think can deteriorate your ability to maximize your innermost potential. And for me, that's been marijuana my whole 20s. And the last 3 months now, I haven't been smoking. And I think that it's one of those things that in the aspect of faith, like knowing that you don't need anything outside of yourself. But it's funny how for such a long time, I would make these choices to say, well, I did this, this, and this, so I deserve this, or I know that this is going to relax me, or I feel like I'm stressed, so this is going to take the stress off. Like your experience with substances, we're both on this journey together. What has been something that has been compelling you in your heart to have that conversation that we had earlier of a desire to clear your mind, clear your body, intentionally clearing your spirit? Elaborate a little bit about where that came from.
Yeah, so huge takeaway from what you just said was how sometimes we need to step out of the noise. And I think perspective plays a huge toll in overcoming some of these habits that maybe we feel are keeping us from our fullest potential. Stepping into the faith is huge because you do put that energy in a force where you are a vessel that is able to express what's necessary through your teachings. Something that I teach myself, that I've studied, is more along the lines of emotional intelligence. And I often wonder if we are in control of our emotions and we have an understanding of like what makes us tick, what triggers us, what satisfies us, what wakes us up, what puts us to sleep. How are we using those to our advantage? Then the question is, if you're using those to your advantage, is that in an in-body experience? Because if you're in control of your emotions, you're in control of your daily habits, your routine, you know these things, It's your choice. You're defined by these. You're choosing to make these choices, whatever the reason may be. Now, if you're putting your faith in towards something or necessarily not in control of your emotions or your feelings, how is that being used to your advantage?
Right.
Are you going through the motions? Are you stuck in this habit of using cannabis to alleviate stress? Are you using it in a manner of procrastination? We'll get to it later, kind of things. Or are we using it to enhance something? Maybe it'll help me think better, feel better,
Right.
taste better, see better.
Right.
Maybe it'll help me sleep better, shut my thoughts off. I think a lot of the times, personally, I get into this state where I feel like I'm overthinking. And I'll use cannabis to dwindle my thoughts, to put me in a relaxed mode. And to overcome, well, before overcoming, I've just realized that that's 9 out of 10 times based on who it is I am now and what it is I'm trying to accomplish in life. There's a time and a place, and right now, cannabis is just not a recreational source of use for me.
Right. We've talked about it a lot. When it's a no once, it's a no always.
It's going to have to be a no every single time, and you're going to have to approach that habit that you feel in your gut needs to be changed, whether it's picking up a book, whether it's writing something down, whether it's listening to a different genre of music, whether it's diving into another career. The challenge is taking that step into homeostasis, rewiring your body to think differently, to act differently, and behave differently based off the choices we make. Honestly, and the difficult part is we're the only ones that can make those choices.
Amen. Those little decisions stack up. And we think these little decisions don't matter, but these little decisions define our character.
Exactly. So some people, their character is they are able to handle the use of cannabis very well. And I'm not saying that I have nothing wrong with cannabis at all.
I support the movement.
Absolutely. I just think that where I'm at in this movement, I think that I can offer a different type of outlook on this. For example, I just had a cannabis meditation practice for the first time the other day. And I came out of this stagnant kind of still meditation feeling rejuvenated, but I also felt compelled to attack certain aspects of my life that cannabis had no part of being in. And it's that perspective thing, right? So we're in a society now where cannabis is fully accepted, and we live in a area where it's heavily used.
LA, shout out.
But it's up to me how I want to view that. And then it's not up to somebody else how they want to define my character based off cannabis consumption. And it's that type of judgmental kind of circle of thoughts that I'll panic in. Honestly, I'll get myself into a hole of like, is this necessary? Which brings us back to that relative talk, which brings us back to if it's a no once, it's a no every time. If it's not a strong yes, don't do it.
And knowing that that's just a chapter. Like the thing that's troubled me in the past is saying, okay, I'm not going to smoke weed ever again. And then I'll smoke weed and I'll be like, damn, man, I can't even hold myself accountable.
Yeah, you got to be realistic. And
Totally.
I think that's something that, if it's safe to say, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that I've made a huge impact in your life and I appreciate you because you let me be the leader that you see in me.
Totally.
And give that constructive criticism. I work off tangible tasks that will guarantee a higher probability of success. And there's nothing wrong with putting a bunch on your plate. But I love that we encourage each other to let one another know, hey, I see you got a lot that you're asking for. what if we kind of cut that in half?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tangible tasks.
And that's the friendship that I've been praying for, because you help me see things from outside my perspective.
Vice
and that,
versa, man.
That leads into a conversation about, you were a member of the Army. Mistake me if I'm wrong.
Oh yeah, combat vet.
So I think that
5'7" with
mentality,
Fido.
that mentality bleeds into that of like, we only take on what we can do because there's like life or death.
Resilience is huge.
So you're not going to take more onto your plate because then you're putting your platoon at risk. You're putting yourself at risk. You were in Afghanistan. So for me, living in Los Angeles and San Diego my whole life, I can have 50 things on my plate. And if I don't get to some of them, I'll get to it later. And that is also the tie-in of marijuana. The procrastination kind of hit me deep. I've been meaning to start this for years. I'll get to it. I think spending time away from it in this chapter of my life has given me perspective on things that I said I'll get to. And I don't want to look back at my life and say, man, I wish I would have, could have. No. So in this chapter, I have let go of that. But for you, the experience of the Army, I think gave you a perspective of, I'm only going to put on my plate what I know I can do.
Dog. And that's, again, why I appreciate your friendship, because what I've carried over from the Army, it's not recognized in our society. And if it is, it's powerful when it is recognized. And perspective's everything. Relevance is huge. So when what I've learned, the character I've developed through my time in the service, that can either go one of two ways. I could go real leadership or real asshole. Right. But for me, the biggest thing I've learned is that I'm drawing a blank on I just said the word. The ability to kind of bounce back. What was the word I just used? I'm drawing a blank on it.
We're talking about leadership. We're talking about resiliency.
Resiliency.
That's
the word, man. And that's, I fiend off resiliency.
Yeah.
That's where
what's plugged into you from the get-go.
Exactly, man. And that's not into everybody. Resiliency is having a growth mindset. Tangible tasks for me personally, a growth mindset for me personally is being able to put something on my plate, finish it, then ask for seconds. That's how I was raised too. Finish everything on your plate, then maybe you'll get seconds.
Right.
And if you don't get your seconds, don't bicker about it.
Correct.
Be happy, be proud that you got that seconds at all. And that stems from childhood, that stems from the military. And now I'm in a place right now where I have the option. Do I want to continue that lifestyle? Do I want to continue that set of values? Do I want to instill that discipline into myself and continue to manifest whatever it is I need to create? Or do I want to change and switch up and give myself that excuse, or fall into this hole of like habits, good or bad, that are deterring me from what my overall purpose in life is? And I'm personally, my chapter in my life right now is understanding my purpose. Standing right here where I'm at today, I'm stepping into a brand new me. And it almost seems like every week I keep having a divine intervention with my dog right next to me, man, where I get to share what's going on in my life. I get hit with a curveball, and a shift in paradigm has to happen in order to maintain that resiliency, that discipline, and that character that you see in me, which is driving me to stay true to myself.
And what God sees in you. God is going to use you in ways that you can't even begin to understand. And I think it starts with your son. The fact that your son's going to be living with you this summer, I am so excited to see what that does for you.
Yeah, shout out Bo. Shout out his mama, Christine B.
Yes, sir. So go into a little bit of your upbringing. You're from the South?
Yeah, so born in Florida, grew up in Tennessee. My mom, my rock, she raised two boys on her own. And
God bless her.
I've honestly spent a lot of my time trying to unlearn a lot of things from my childhood And in the full circle of doing so, getting closer to my mom, I've realized that I'm a spitting image of her. I get a ton of my resiliency from her. I get a ton of my sense of humor from her. And this is, again, another thing where I've just learned to lean in and appreciate that side of me, because coming up, it was difficult. I'm not going to say it was difficult growing up without a father, but
I can only imagine.
and that's where relative speaking again comes into play. And I gain satisfaction from the idea of who that person maybe could have been in that universe compared to who I am now in the parallel. So the only thing that I know how to do is to be the person that I would have want to have been in my life. So the upbringing was cool, man, but I had a difficult time getting through middle school, getting through high school. I thought that I wanted to go to school for culinary arts, cooking, and that wasn't a calling for me once I started college there. So I pretty much just packed up my bags, said bye to everything that I knew in Tennessee, and moved to Florida and just tried to restart where my mom was at currently. And then or where she was at then. And from there I had just decided, like, I have nothing to lose, nothing to hold on to, nothing to stop me, holding me back. A couple of my family members had served in the military, so I said, why not give this army a go? And sure enough, made it all the way through MEPS flying colors, and I got to select a job from pages of different jobs that I had no idea were even available in the military. Ended up choosing to be a mechanic, a diesel mechanic in the Army. And I requested to go to Washington, where another huge brother of mine, Robbie Perkins, was already stationed at. He really helped segue me into this military lifestyle in terms of physical fitness and discipline.
That was
And
an angel in your life, bro.
yeah, definitely an MVP. But my first duty station was with a combat engineer route clearance company, where upon finishing boot camp, I learned that my unit was shortly going to be deploying in Afghanistan for route clearance operations, which,
What was that like of hearing you're going to Afghanistan during a pretty hostile time?
yeah, OEF 14. So again,
2014.
yeah. So again, I get inspiration from resiliency. So in my eyes, that's exactly what I signed up for, right? So I was excited. I was
Wow.
ecstatic.
That's so epic.
I will never forget my very first day getting to my unit. My motor sergeant looked at me, who was my leader. Sergeant Riddle, big shout out. Corey Riddle,
Riddle
big,
me
big
this.
shout out. He looked at me dead in my face and asked me if I'm ready to deploy in Afghanistan. And I looked at him in his eyes and told him that is exactly what I signed up for. And I
Wow.
was more than ready.
That will live in your mind forever.
Oh, that
moment.
entire experience, my entire military career has defined who I am, and I'll never regret that opportunity.
I think
that
it's such
choice.
exactly that. It's such an amazing thing about the United States of America. And you can talk all the shit you want about this country, but our military, I have a lot of family who have served. I have 2 younger twin sisters who are in the Air Force currently. They take care of you, man. They look out for you. And yes, everything is imperfect, right? There's aspects of it that are imperfect, but giving someone who you just shared, you were in a space where you had nothing to lose, you were looking for inspiration, you were looking for an opportunity to be resilient, it gave that to you.
Yeah, I felt called to answer this patriotic.
Yeah. What was it like re-immersing yourself into society? I want to talk a little bit about the thing you shared with me about not feeling like people see that. And I see so many people, especially in this city, but like a lack of respect. We see the VA, we see a lot of the homeless are ex-military. And it's like, just imagining, I wasn't in the military, but to go and defend the freedoms that we hold true here and that a lot of us take for granted, come back into the society and see that there's a lack of appreciation for that type of service. If you want to, one moment, please. There's this lack of appreciation for it. So for you, re-immersion, what did that feel like of coming back and getting yourself back to the swing of things? Did you come back and go back to Florida, or were you in Tennessee?
Yeah, so there's a long story and a short story. What do you want? You want the long story? You want the short story?
Let's get into the story, bro. This is what the pod's about.
Yeah, for
Whatever
sure.
you feel compelled to share,
Yeah, for sure.
please do.
Yeah, so okay. So during that time I learned something called like a transitional anxiety or something along that nature. And I had gotten out of the military sooner than expected. I was involuntarily separated from the army. I was wrongly accused of hazing and bullying a private who was looking for a quick way to get out of the army. And it worked out to his benefit. Unbeknownst to him, he didn't know that it would impact my career as well, which it did in terms of getting me out sooner than expected. Again, resiliency and thriving under the pressure. I had an option, a choice to make with, at this time, getting out of the military. This was 2019. I had a 2-year-old son, and I was married at the time too. So I was stationed in Hawaii, where upon leaving, we went to Washington, where my ex-wife is from. So again, huge shout out to Robbie Perkins, big MVP, for giving me the invitation to work at LA Fitness, which I started to see my leadership qualities in me again right after I had decided to go to school online for movies. I'm kind of jumping all over the place here. So when I got out of the military, I didn't really have a huge goal in mind other than to spend as much time as humanly possible with my son. As mentioned, was 2 at the time. So what I did was open LA Fitness, which was about a mile down the street. I opened the gym in the morning and I worked kids club there so that I could get paid, get a free gym membership, and hang out with my son the whole time. And then I started online school through LA Film School, diving into a career that I knew nothing about. But I'm a studious scholar, man. I have a thirst for education.
And you're following the strings, the little pull of your heart space is telling you to do something, usually a reason. You getting, prematurely kicked from the army. God works very mysteriously. Sorry to interject.
Nothing happens by accident, right?
Nothing is by accident.
Nothing by accident. And perspective is everything.
Yep.
So during what was, yes, a very dark time for me, I honestly think it was my choice to make it dark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, how you responded to it.
And then it was my choice to also not succumb to temptations and the darknesses that could have been a lot worse, right?
Parallel universe. You could have been one of those people at the VA.
Thanks for understanding.
How quickly a decision here and a decision there can lead to that.
Yes.
And a lot of those people
Yeah.
are one or two decisions
Right.
away from having a penthouse suite,
Yeah.
living their best life.
Or the later, which is on the streets, not doing, a whole lot for themselves or for society. But then again, who are we to judge?
Correct.
And then
Correct.
those are just the parallel universes that
Right.
theory of
For
relativity
me,
gives
it's
us
the
the option of
conversation,
playing.
though.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
being able to know that that is a human being that has a story,
Yeah.
rather than you're driving down the street, you turn your head
Yeah.
away, and you say, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's like,
We've all made a choice, and I'm grateful to have people in my corner and in a growth mindset to honestly just never give up. I think that health and wellness has helped keep us grounded.
definitely.
That music keeps us grounded, and I really think that having that ambition to recognize and understand your purpose and never being too worried about is it too late to start is very important to have as a priority in your life.
Taking that leap of faith. So that immersion process for you, having the quick transition to health and wellness and being able to be a leader in a domain that you already knew being in the Army, you have to take your health seriously. So it was kind of like that's the training wheels aspect of getting back into society. And then you took a leap of faith into something that was way outside your comfort zone, feeling compelled to get into the movie industry, which probably inevitably brought you to LA.
Exactly that. So I was working for LA Fitness, studying behavioral therapy out of the VA, and just trying to be the best father that I could. And I had a choice to make, whether it be represent a masculine energy that made sense to me in front of him or not. And I chose the not. I chose not to represent a masculine energy that I didn't understand. And I chose to pick up and leave the situation at which I was, again, trying to make work, trying to force a happiness to happen, and came to LA just before COVID happened and have been able to genuinely work on my mental health and physical health as well.
Yeah, I think it's so complex, and there's so many areas of you look back, say decision here, decision there, but again, things divinely happening and following God's pull to be where you are now. I feel very, very blessed that you took that road to be here in LA, which kind of goes into you and I's relationship of pushing each other physically. I think it's so cool to have when you go to the gym, and COVID was such an interesting time to have all of that taken from us. And then for me personally, I was like, I'm going to take it on myself to create something. You've been in the dojo. The backyard is a domain of physical health, mental health, that resiliency. So it was fun to have that and then to provide that for people. But it's been so cool to see your perspective on nutrition. And my whole life, I've been a beanpole. If you know me, I've been a skinny dude my whole life. And I'm starting to fill out a little bit. My dad always said, wait until your latter 20s, early 30s to start really seeing all the work come to fruition because your metabolism is going to slow down a little bit. And so for me, it's been cool to pick your brain on, macros, micros, getting into tracking my food. Where do you think that aspect of your fitness journey comes in? And you just got into the ISSA. You're going to start diving back into that. It's going to be cool to see us both be more of service for people in their journeys of health and wellness. Because me personally, I feel so compelled. People ask me, what do you do? I just say, like, I'm a health and wellness aficionado, and they say, well, what does that do for you? And it's like, I'm able to show up for people where they're at. And if they want to make tangible change in their life, I ask them what their goals are. Because when I started teaching yoga, I'd go in with my set sequence, what I wanted to do. And then it transitioned, a light bulb moment of, I'm here for the student. So really having the opportunity to be of service for people and help them get into their version of their best, most efficient, most healthy self is why I love doing what I do. Is that something you see yourself doing as like a side hustle, or is that something that you see yourself kind of growing into even more so?
I think it's a growing into, stepping into this person that I'm becoming. One of those tangible tasks I like to at the forefront is having a knowledge backed by science.
Yeah.
You know, I love fact checking. And when we're talking health and wellness, when we're talking inside our body, that's all science, biology, the study of life. That's all that's happening inside of our body. And the same things that happen inside of our body reflect on the outside. The same things that are happening inside and outside of our body are the same things that happen when we try to grow plants. So if you've ever asked yourself, why don't I have this green thumb? Why aren't I able to kind of make some of these plants grow the way that they're supposed to? Well, ask yourself, are you giving that plant the nutrients, the water, the attention that that plant needs? And then ask yourself too, are you doing it for yourself? I think health and wellness is so important because it gives us a reminder that we are the single only ones that's going to achieve those results. We're not going to be able to be walked all the way through.
Can't buy health and wellness for the most part. I mean,
you just can't. You're only going to be you're only going to be working out an hour out of the day.
Yeah.
You know, so what do you do right? What do you do in, the rest of the day? They're 24, 23 hours out of the day. This is given me an opportunity to, well, let me backtrack actually. So when I got out of the military and started working for LA Fitness, during that time, I had actually dropped 50 pounds of body fat. I went from 255 out of the Army, where I've been maintaining 200 pounds for the past 2 years.
Real quick backstory to that. I saw you post a picture on Instagram. It was 3 gentlemen. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Chaz posted a picture of his friends. And then I look a little closer, and the man on the right was you.
Yeah,
but
big boy.
At that 50-pound, bigger you.
Yeah, bigger me.
And it's crazy to see that resiliency and the practice, the steadfast practice of literally transforming your body.
Yeah, and then it gets to the point, I had never been at the point. It was another transformation, another transition for me, where it was like, I want to look like you. I want to look like you. How do I look like you? For a lot of, for a while, it was a big joke, like, oh, takes time, it takes time, it takes time. But once I started working for LA Fitness and teaching personal training to people, it's not a joke. It takes time. I've been working out since 2014. When I first went to Afghanistan and really started getting underneath some weights and thought that I was weak then.
Yeah.
And
probably had some workouts
still
out
have
there
those thoughts.
That really set the foundation for your knowledge of moving into your life.
And that's the goal, I think, at the end of the day, is to be hungry for that knowledge to build that foundation. Because once you have the facts that are going into your body and you're starting to have these residual results, whether it be health, whether it be financial, whether it be spiritual, it requires an education and a knowledge and a thirst for that expansion of vocabulary and understanding in order to receive some sort of result.
Teaching from a place of knowledge rather than just experience.
Exactly. When you're coming from knowledge, you get to tap into those pros and cons. When you get to make an assumption, but then dial it back. This is where you get to ground yourself. When my guys are talking about, I put on 5 pounds of muscle in a month, I'm gonna come in and be like, scientifically not possible, my guy. Right. And we're here as a place of growth and understanding. And it's like, shame on who says you for knocking me down. And it's like, well,
let's have a conversation.
Here's a conversation. Yeah. Here's the reference source where it's telling you right here. It takes 4 to 6 weeks to put on a solid pound of muscle. Imagine how many other things that you can change and add to yourself when you give yourself 4 to 6 weeks of dedication, a consistent, healthy routine that makes sense, and you're reflecting, you're tracking your results to make sure that these facts are actually working. Then you get to weigh that against the assumptions, against the educated guesses, right?
Right.
And that's where I feed off of this stuff. I get action, I get motivation from action, from taking the necessary steps that you have to make. No matter what steps it is, you have to do something first in order to get that motivation to be inspired. Inspiration doesn't just zap into you.
Correct.
It doesn't matter how right spiritual you are. It doesn't matter how rooted you are to your being. Like, inspiration doesn't just happen, and you don't, like, one of the biggest things is like jumping off of social media and looking up to some of our like idols, some of these celebrities, some of these people that have made it, quote unquote, and you can't get inspiration from these things. Maybe you can learn something from them, but it's not until you apply it to yourself in a practical situation that you're truly not going to be able to get that experience and that motivation to keep the momentum and wash, rinse, repeat, right? Feel inspired to take action, keep momentum, feel inspired, take action.
It's like the plunge, getting into the ice per se. But what areas of your life are you getting into the ice? Are you getting out of bed at 5 a.m.? Are you taking an hour or two out of your day to focus on movement? Are you eating a diet that is, just like you said, if you want a plant to grow, you got to give it the nutrients to grow?
Yeah, if you want to start something new in your life, are you giving yourself an hour to study that subject?
Correct.
That polar plunge is meant to teach us to survive in the uncomfortable, and
to show up.
And to just get there. And again, whether you're in control of your emotions or not, to drop in, be present with intention.
Right. That leads in talking about ice baths this summer. What do you see in store? I mean, we've been blessed to not only you and I cultivate a relationship, but we are growing a community here in Los Angeles that I'm very proud to be a part of, and I'm very blessed and also humbled because I feel like we're only just beginning when it comes to events, when it comes to collaborations, when it comes to, just the sky's the limit. And the more that I'm diving into my Bible and I'm reading, Ephesians chapter 1, tell me that we have the same power of God when he rose Jesus Christ from the tomb. We are so much more powerful than I think society wants us to know. And I think as a global, we are tapping into an understanding of that, which the dam is breaking, bro. So this summer, what do you see in store for not only yourself, but for the Fearless Shepherds and for the kind of the movement that we're creating?
You know what I see?
Talk.
I see therapy.
Ooh, wasn't expecting that, but I love where it's heading.
You picking up what I'm putting down?
Without question.
I see opportunities for us to gather without feeling inclined to party.
Hallelujah, bro.
I feel like we're gonna get to gather and over meals, plant-based, filling spreads. Okay, I see community and again, gathering for people to just vent, to strangers, to family members, to friends. And I feel like this is an opportunity for a lot of people like myself. Humbled is the word for me too, man, because I get to remind myself that I'm not alone in this endeavor of of exploration and and understanding who we are as individuals. And together, it's beautiful to see that we all have a similar understanding for keeping our spirits, our energy high, and knowing that we're not in this alone and that we have a space that we've cultivated any single person to come into and be themselves or learn how to be themselves
Mm. Show up as you are.
and then teach people how to be themselves too.
Totally. And us teachers need teachers. So it's been cool to see so many of the people that we have that really God has brought into our lives, but that we have been calling in through the practices that we are starting in our own lives, because temple builds one brick at a time. So by making these little decisions, we were talking earlier, your life and your character is a lot of little decisions that stack up on each other. We're magnets. So as we start to emit a frequency that is conducive to what we want, that is the law of attraction.
Yeah, and it doesn't get better than that.
It's such a blessing, bro.
It can be overwhelming for me personally, because this is something that I've stepped into thanks to you, and it's something that I'm being called to, but I've also avoided for a long time. And like you said, man, God has a way of just telling us where we need to go. It's up to us, if we're going to do it,
Yep.
and then what we take from that perspective.
Instead of being careful what you wish for, be grateful what you pray for, because it's coming. And that's I think the power of God. And to transition from that into where you are in your faith, would love to hear about kind of your experience with God, where you're at with your faith, and where you see yourself going.
Yeah.
Big question, bro. We talk big on this pod.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely God fearing. But through my studies, I've come to terms with. I didn't come to terms. Definitely open minded. But I believe that God is within us. I think that we are God by definition. I think that if we need to give faith into anything, it needs to be in ourselves first. And if you study relative theory and you apply it to religion, then take everything that they're putting into the Bible and replace God with me. Replace God with I. And ask yourself, like, can you overcome this issue? Knowing that there is an energy force flowing through you, but you have to be willing to give yourself up to that, right? And, just like we said earlier in the discussion, like, at what point is that an out of body experience, or are you completely in control? So I feel a spirit running through me, and I'm in a place of letting it take control where it needs to and defining what is an option for me to perceive. So since meeting you, I've definitely become closer to my spiritual side. And I think I've given a lot of studies into the kind of chemical changes that we go through scientifically. And really, I've noticed that it can be easy to go down a rabbit hole of these theories when the religion tells you, at the end of the day, to just have faith, right? So um, I definitely have faith in not only a higher power, but myself. And those are the things that keep me ticking.
So speaking of faith, I was in Texas walking around with my folks 2 weeks ago when I brought Clarissa out there. And there was this little like book share spot where you take a book, you drop a book. And this book is called Foundations of Faith. And it's the Good Shepherd Institute. Fearless Shepherds kind of found that to be a very divine intervention. But it talks a little bit about the rapture. I'm going to just share this real quick. The objective here is to describe and identify events surrounding Jesus' return. And the big belief, and I think the two books that the devil is most afraid of is Genesis, which talks about the devil's schemes, and Revelation, which talks about the triumph over the devil. So no one knows, this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 36. No one knows, however, when that day and hour will come. Neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, Jesus, the Father alone knows. And they're talking about the end of it all. There are signs telling us that the rapture is drawing near. Jesus said that just before his return, there would be an increase in worldliness, wickedness, and violence. False Christs or prophets would arise. There would be earthquakes, famine, and pestilence. Pestilence. Don't know what that one means. There would be wars and rumors of wars. All these signs spoken of in Matthew and Luke are happening in our day. Not everything, however, is negative. And that is the beauty of faith in my eyes. So I love what you said about the God within. And like I shared about Ephesians, I do believe that. I do believe that he created us in his image.
I think what you just read, it has been everything that we've been talking.
For sure. The worldliness, my goodness. So it says, not everything, however, is negative. In spite of terrible times, many people will seek the Lord and find him. Joel chapter 2, 28 and 29 tells us this. Afterward, I will pour out my spirit on everyone. Your sons and daughters will proclaim my message. Your old men will have dreams. Your young men will see visions. At that time, I will pour out my spirit even on the servants, both men and women. Christians look forward to the rapture with joy.
Wow.
Those who have died will be resurrected, and those who are alive will be changed. All will be caught up together to meet the Lord in the air. Listen to this secret truth. We shall not all die, but when the last trumpet sounds, we shall all be changed in an instant, as quickly as the blinking of an eye. For when the trumpet sounds, the dead will be raised, never to die again, and we shall all be changed. For what is mortal must be changed into what is immortal. What will die must be changed into what cannot die. That is 1 Corinthians chapter 15, 51. And so for me, faith is this hope in a hopeless world. It is light in the darkness. And it is talking about substance and talking about, we didn't even really get into the wandering eye that we men all share. But these things that we are caught up in, our experiential bodies and our thirsts, whatever they may be, the diligent practice of faith has helped me to find a thirst that is quenching.
Yeah, and faith is huge, Like I said, I think that when you can turn that faith inwards, and that's because relative speaking, we might not all be religious, So how do you communicate a language universally? Well, we all know that we have a beating heart and a working mind, and that alone gives us that chance to have something to look forward to, and then when you have that opportunity, how do you present it? Like I said, this is just huge to me because you just pulled that up out of nowhere. And it's so relative to everything we've been saying in this whole conversation because it's a perspective and it's a resiliency. Are you going to spend the rest of our days? Nobody knows when the last day will come. And relative speaking, maybe the trumpets are in your soul and you have that family member that's died of unnatural causes. Is that the trumpet for you in your life? Is that letting you know that your last breath could be drawn? I really think the power of the Bible, the Word, the Spirit is inside of all of us. And I think that it's a perspective of being able to understand that when you give yourself that chance to be bigger than what you could even fathom alone by yourself, then you get to radiate that energy, just like what you said. And I appreciate you because this is what you wanted. This is what you told me at Same But Different. You wanted to teach people how to have the light that you have. That's all you wanted, was to surround yourself with people that have a light and have an enthusiasm to live the life they were given. That's my biggest that's my biggest study for the past couple months. I've been reading this book called The Infinite Staircase. Uh, and it talks about the metaphysics of our universe into the physical. And it actually starts with the transfer of energy and how that can roll into biology, right? From biology, at what point do you think it turns into desire? From desire, we get language and culture, so on and so forth. And it starts to roll into, guess what? That has no beginning, has no ending, but we have to have a way to communicate this vast open mind topic of living, of understanding the ground that we walk on, or maybe the heart that's just beating inside of us. Yeah. Big shout out.
Big shout out, same. Oh, man. Well, man, I am so grateful we were able to chop it up. This is the beginning of mini episodes with Chaz Byrd. To wrap, I just wanted to ask your summer, what you're working on. You're about to graduate. You just got Student of the Month at the LA Film School.
Oh, yeah.
You got your boy coming into town.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a lot of events.
Oh,
you
yeah.
and I on the decks. I mean, Chucky and the kid. You're about to see us.
Man, we're stepping into something new. And that's what's happening. I learned last year with Sam, our buddy down from Same, man.
Sam, I am.
I learned
Stoked he's in the street.
that on the age of 29, you're in your Saturn return. It takes 29 years to get around Saturn once. So we are in a place of transformation, I think. And this is our opportunity to accept that transformation and stay true to who we are, but allow room to grow. Learn to teach and be teachable. And I'm looking forward to stepping into this fathership, this fatherly role with my son who's coming to live with me for the duration of summer. I'm stepping into an entrepreneur role where I have going to start a post-production sound house with Tashad Owens, a combat veteran, a battle buddy of mine, served with him in Afghanistan, and he's going to be moving here the same time Bo is. Actually, we're going to be hitting the trenches, you know?
Very exciting.
Yes. And then we graduate in August, where we're looking at just building our brand, being an advocate for the Fearless Shepherds, being an advocate for health and fitness, for mental health and exploration, and consuming as much information as I possibly can while exposing myself to situations without expectation. That way I can do nothing but receive.
Yeah, I see this summer as kind of a springboard. It was a lunar eclipse last night. I don't know if you saw it, but the moon was red. It was really like, I just was looking at it for a little while, and I was just thinking about kind of the seeds that have been planted over these last couple of years, from COVID to the riots, to the race wars, to the presidential horseshit, to all these different things that have been separating us and dividing us and all of the stuff. And then I was like, dude, you are in control of so much. You have so much to be grateful for. You have so much that you're doing, that you are literally manifesting, or God is listening to your prayers, and you are feeling the divinity work through you. Like, continue to focus on what you can control and continue to surround yourself with the people who can help you when you can't help yourself. And like you said, the therapy and the group connections in a quote unquote party environment where we're not escaping, we're actually finding. We're finding ourselves, we're finding our community, and just so grateful for you, bro. God bless you. Can we finish in a prayer? Dear God, thank you for this great start to the week with my brother Chaz. Thank you for another episode of the Fearless Shepherds. I pray that you continue to bless us both with health, bless our families with health, bless our minds with discernment, and continue to help us walk the road less traveled. I pray for this world that we can continue to feel your presence and continue to cultivate a belief in ourselves so that we can be better conduits, better shepherds in this world, and not be fearful, but be fearless. I'm so grateful for all that has, all that is, and all that will be. And let us just step one single step at a time. And you want to add anything, Chaz, please?
Yeah, I just really, no, as far as yours.
God bless you, bro. Amen. And let's have a blessed week ahead, brother. Thank y'all for listening. Second episode of the Fearless Shepherds wrapping up. Chaz Byrd, big shout out. Thank you so much, brother. It's amazing how quickly conversation goes when you're speaking about life and God. A lot of these questions that can spark fear, spark judgment. That's what this podcast is all about. And really, that's what life is all about, is to step into faith with a yearning for knowledge. So if you want to learn more, if you want to donate to the cause, my name is Kyle Cassidy. I am the founder of the Fearless Shepherds, and I cannot do this alone. So I would love to hear from you more. You can follow our movement on Instagram or TikTok at Fearless Shepherds. My personal account, Kyle Cassidy Fitness on Instagram, or shoot me an email, spiritmovement3@gmail.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. God bless.